Hey everyone, it's Tiffany. Today I want to talk to you about something that I've always kind of wanted to talk about, but I just never really had the opportunity to do so. And when I was thinking about what my next topic might be to share on here, this just kept coming to my mind, and I just couldn't get it out. And I was like, okay, I guess that's the route we're going. So, a little bit of background: the semester after I got married in college, so I'd been married for like 3 months, so June to like September, maybe a little over 3 months. Um, I took a class on marriage and family. And part of that class, we had to read a couple books on marriage, and then we had to write a paper about it. And for years, probably, I would say maybe like since freshman year, I would go into the bookstore, and there was this one book, and it would catch my eye. And I'm like, one day, I'm going to read that book. And uh, this gave, well, face it, as a college student, you don't really have time to necessarily read as many books for fun as you would normally have because you're reading and studying and doing all that. So this gave me the excuse to read the book that I've been eyeing in the bookstore for years. Okay? And at first I got it from the library, but I liked it so much that I ended up buying it. It's called, I don't know if it'll be backwards or whatever, but it's called Created to Be His Helpmeet by Debbie Pearl. And I'll put the link in the description if you're interested in learning any more about that book or maybe want to grab your own copy, whatever. But it will look different because that's an old version and they've updated the cover and whatnot. But super great book. It has impacted me in so many ways. I learned so much from it. And I've even kind of reread. I don't know that I've actually been able to read the whole book again because it's like 300 pages, but I have reread parts of it. And this one part that we're going to talk about today has probably been my favorite part of the whole book, and it has stuck with me so much through the, let's see, I'll be married 11 years in June, so almost 11 years. Okay, so what we're going to talk today was found in chapter 8, and I'm going to disclaim here, all of these ideas came from Debbie Pearl in her book. I'm just sharing them with you because they were that great. So please don't think that I've come up with the three types of men, and okay, I just read in books a lot, so this is just something I wanted to share with you. Okay, and she says she got the idea for the types of men, um, because God is triune and we are made in His image. Okay, so the three types, I'll tell you right now, the three types of men are Mr. Command Man, Mr. Visionary, and Mr. Steady. And she says we can see that through God's character, or each person of the Trinity. For example, okay, she says for Mr. Command Man, we see that in God as God is dominant. He's sovereign and all powerful. Okay. And Mr. Visionary, you can see that through God is omniscient and he's desirous of carrying out his plans. Mr. Steady, God is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and he's our faithful high priest. Another thing she says is wisdom is knowing what you bought when you married that man and learning to adapt him as he is, not as you want him to be. She also points out, you can never change who your husband is, okay? There might be things that bother you, like, you're never going to change his personality and his character. That's just who he is. That's who he was when you married him. So, my mom has also given me this advice. You can't change him, but God can. So, there might be little things that drive you nuts, okay? And maybe you nag your husband, like, about a decision or whatever. That's the first thing that comes to mind when I think about this is, sometimes we're trying to make a decision and he'll tell me this idea that he's got and we're going to go with this, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm not so sure about that. Like, I don't know. Like, and I try, you can try to change his mind and you might not get anywhere. You might just sit there and nag and cause fights and whatnot. That's not going to get you anywhere. That's just going to cause all kinds of fights and hurt feelings and whatnot. I have found if I just shut my mouth and pray, God will either show me that, okay, his idea is a good idea and he'll change me, or he may change him and be like, you know what, I think maybe that's not a good idea. And, if God shows him, he's going to change, his mind or whatever it might be. Okay? But it's always better if God does it than if I do it. Okay? So that's a little tip there. Here's another quote she gives. God gives imperfect women to imperfect men so that they can be heirs together of the grace of life and become something more together than either one of them would have ever been alone. Okay, we can have the world's greatest marriage, okay? And I have a wonderful marriage, don't get me wrong, okay? My marriage is awesome. But you know what? We're all imperfect. I'm imperfect, my husband's imperfect, you're imperfect, your husband's imperfect. We're never going to be perfect in this world. So there's always going to be something we can work on in our marriage, because it's just never going to be perfect, because we're not perfect. So I think understanding the three types of men can really help you. I know it has helped me, okay, because I'll get to that. But, okay, we're going to start with Mr. Command Man. Okay, these are your born leaders. Think military commanders, politicians, preachers, heads of business corporations. Specifically, you could think of maybe Winston Churchill, George Patton, Ronald Reagan. They were all bold leaders, okay? They were born leaders. That was what they were made to do, and they were good leaders, okay? Um, these men tend to do more than is required of them. They tend to want to expect their wives to wait on them hand and foot. They're less tolerant because they're the leader and they want to be obeyed. You know, that's just what they are. They tend to see the bigger picture and they strive to help the greatest number. Okay. She says an example. A king wants a queen, which is why a man in command wants a faithful wife to share his fame and glory. As a wife of a Mr. Command Man, if that is what your husband tends toward, you should be faithful, loyal, and obedient, and stand by him. Okay. Sometimes these types, if they go too far off the command, like if they go too far and they're not following God's idea of leadership, they can tend to brag on themselves until people are sick of them. Or if they really go too far, they can become abusive. Now, sometimes that happens, and if it does, if it gets to the point you need to call the police, please do so. You don't let them do that. But that's if they go too far off the sinful side. If they're following God, they should not be doing things like that. So that is Mr. Command Man. Then we get to Mr. Visionary. And I'm not going to lie. Mr. Commandment, or Mr. Commandment, Mr. Visionary is our next one. And I will show you in a minute. This one is what my husband tends to be, a Mr. Visionary, okay? These men tend to easily pick up and relocate without any idea of what they're going to do for a living at their new location. These are your shakers, your changers, your dreamers. They tend to love confrontation, and they need a good, wise, prudent, stable wife who has a positive outlook on life. Okay, and I also wrote down, over time they may become more practical. Here's a quote that I got from page 81. He may never be rich in money, but he will always be rich in experience. Okay, and this was so much like TJ, and I'll show you this, that when I read it, well, it's been a while, so the post-it doesn't want to say. I actually put a post-it that says this was TJ to a T. I still remember reading this and thinking, oh my word, did she come to my life? Because, and I'll read you this paragraph. This paragraph kind of sums it up pretty well, but I read it and I was like, wow, that is something. It just really sounded eerily familiar. Okay. Let's see. Okay, we'll just start at the beginning. He may invest everything in a chance or lose it all to make a fortune, but he will not do well working 8 to 5 in the same place for 30 years and then retiring to live the good life. If he does work a regular job, he may either not show up half the time or will work like a maniac 80 hours a week and love every minute. He may purchase an alligator farm in Florida or a ski resort in Colorado. Or, and this is where he never has actually done this, but this is where I really was like, whoa, I could see that happening. He may buy an old house trailer for $150 with the hopes of fixing it up and selling it for $10,000, only to find out that it is so deteriorated that it can't be moved. He will then have his wife and all the kids help him tear the top off and carry the scraps to the dump, saving the appliances in the already crowded garage, so he can make a farm trailer out of the axles. Now that he has a farm trailer and no animals, expect him to get a deal on 3 old sick cows. Okay, and that's silly. I mean, obviously that didn't actually happen to me, but I mean, it's very eerily similar to things that TJ had done. And I'm not gonna lie, my dad wasn't really a Mr. Visionary. He was more of a cross between like a Mr. Commandment and Mr. Steady. Okay, which we'll get to later. But I was not used to my husband is self-employed, so I wasn't used to, like, my dad worked shift work, so we knew when he would be coming home, whether he worked a double or a single shift or whatever. We knew, he's coming home, he'll be home at this time. My husband is self-employed, so there is no set schedule. So when we first got married, that was like, okay, when is he coming home for dinner? I'd wait dinner, and I've kind of gotten to the point where I've learned you don't wait dinner, especially with kids. You just go with the flow. He'll come home, he'll heat it up, and he'll eat it. No big deal. That's just the way life is around here. Okay? And part of that is she talks about to be the wife of Mr. Visionary. And this was very helpful. And she says, learn to enjoy the trip. Because I'm not going to lie, guys, life is an adventure. And I have learned to enjoy the trip. We have had so much fun in the past 11 years. I mean, so much. She says the wife of Mr. Visionary needs to be a little bit reckless and blind in one eye to enjoy the ride. Learn how to be flexible and learn how to always be loyal to your man. Okay, I have had to learn to be very flexible because our plans can change a lot. I mean, that can be the same for maybe Mr. Commandman or Mr. Steady, but more likely for your Mr. Visionary because they are so spur of the moment. You'll be happier and so will he if you learn to go with the flow. His flow. Be supportive. The way you think will determine how you will feel, and how you feel influences the way you will act. That one took me a while too. Think objectively and use common sense. Okay? Don't take offense easily. And while sometimes, especially when they're younger, she says, they may tend to be like wild and extravagant, like, like buying an alligator farm. I mean, TJ, thank goodness, has never bought an alligator farm because that would really be out of my comfort zone. But anyway, they tend to be more practical. And I can see that, in 11 years, TJ's more practical now than he was the day we got married, okay? So that comes with age. And sometimes, that's just, boys tend to take a little bit longer sometimes to mature, I guess, and some take longer than others. Some never mature, which, that's not the case. Please don't think that I'm, but, and it's so true. I have literally taken the whole go with the flow, life, what was the one I wrote down? Learn to enjoy the trip. I've learned to do that, and it has made so much more of a difference, because if, maybe, I'll give you an example. A couple years ago, he kept telling me, we're going to go on a trip out west. Now, at the time, our 2 oldest, we only had the 2 at the time, and my 2 oldest girls, one was 5, because it was right before kindergarten. She was like 5, and my middle was 2, and we were going to drive across cross country with them. And I'm just looking at him. I'm like, okay, I really didn't think it was going to happen, guys. I thought, okay, this is just another one of your funny plans, right? Because we're not going to take a 2-year-old across the country from the East Coast to the West Coast and back. That's just okay. Oh, and the dog. We have to take the dog too. So I'm like, okay. And I just kept going, and he talked about this for months, and I was like, this is not really going to happen, Okay, so come May, he's still talking to me. He said, by the end of this month, we're going. And I was like, for real? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, goodness, please, dear Lord, make this go well. I mean, driving with a 2-year-old can be, we drove to the beach because that's where my grandparents live, but across the country, I thought, okay, go with the flow, learn to enjoy the trip. That was probably the most wonderful trip we've ever had. We want to do that again soon, and now we have 3, and I'll have another 2-year-old, 5-year-old, and an 8-year-old. Now with the whole corona craziness, I don't know if it'll actually happen, but it turned out I went with the flow. I enjoyed the trip. And as crazy as I thought he was at the time, that was literally, and my kids still talk about how we went to Bear Country, USA, and that was like their favorite part of the whole trip. They got to see that and different things across the country, that's the one that they talk about the most is though. And they loved seeing the wild bears. There were bears outside our window and, wolves, and Mommy thought they were going to get the dog, and they still talk about that. And so they enjoyed it. And you know what? My 2-year-old was the best. I mean, literally, we drove. I forget how many hours a day we drove, but and then we'd stop for the night. But she did amazing, and I was like, okay, I don't know why I was so worried about this. Like this was awesome. So guys, if you just kind of like I said, learn to go with the flow. If this is your husband, if he comes up with some crazy ideas, and they will, Mr. Visionary will. I've learned like okay, you know, and it's like a fun adventure. Okay, and people will look at you like, girl, your husband's a little crazy, or you guys are crazy, like, because I go wrong with it. I'm like, okay. But you know what? Don't worry about other people. Don't worry about it. As long as you and your husband, you know, that's you guys. But learn to go with the flow. That's the biggest trip. Make it a trip. It's like an adventure, and it's fun. It's fun. I've kind of broke out of my shell, and it is fun to be spur of the moment. Sometimes with kids, it's a little harder to be spur of the moment because I can't just up and pack up 3 kids and find, whether we're taking the dog or not, and do that too. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer than, hey, let's leave tonight. Like, okay. That takes a little bit more for me because I'm more of I have to plan, I have to pack this person, this person, this person, and we gotta have this, and we have to have extra outfits for the baby, and we have to have diapers and wipes, and TJ's just like, let's just leave. And I was like, well, you can be spur of the moment, but you gotta give me more than like 5 hours, I gotta get everything together. But seriously, it's fun. So that's where I'll leave Mr. Visionary. Again, that was like my eye-opening. Like, I really think once you understand that, it makes it'll make your life and your marriage a whole world of a lot better. Mr. Steady. On to Mr. Steady. They are faithful and content. They're balanced and stable. These are the guys that they want everything. They steady. They want to plan. They want it to go smoothly. They're balanced. They're stable. They're not the ones that are going to be going out there like was it Edison? Einstein? Edison with the light bulb. He was Mr. Visionary. He was your inventor. He came up with the light bulb, but you know what? It took like 100 tries or something for him to get to the light bulb that worked. Okay? Mr. Steady is like, he just wants the light bulb that works. He's not the one that's going to be going out and being like, I'm going to invent a light bulb. Okay? So that's him. He's wonderful, kind, loving, and serving. He doesn't make snap decisions like Mr. Visionary might. He avoids controversy. He makes wise, well thought out decisions. Okay, and he might not be the first one to jump up and run down. He might not be like can't remember the guy's name on 9/11 that ran down the plane. Let's roll. That would be Mr. Command. He's taking command. He's of the situation. He's going to solve the situation. Mr. Steady is going to be more of like, okay, I'll go with you. More of like the follower, okay? He's not going to be the first one to necessarily jump up to lead. Like the newest, maybe you're starting like a new Sunday school or something. He's not going to be the first one to be like, oh, I'll do that. That's me. Okay. He's going to be like, okay, if you want me to do something, let me know. Okay? That type of person. As his wife, this is your husband, as his wife, you need to appreciate him for who he is and not see him as wishy-washy. Some people might say that about these guys. That's not the case, okay? They're not, that's just their personality. They're not the one that wants to jump up and lead everything. They'll do things, but they might not be the first one to jump up and volunteer. As his wife, you'll need to have wisdom and patience and to pray for him. But honestly, as a wife, whether you have Mr. Steady, Mr. Visionary, or Mr. Command Man as your as your husband, we need to pray for them because, like I said, none of us are perfect. We can all have something to work on our marriage, work on us personally, or he needs to work on something for him personally. We need to pray for them. That's the biggest help that you can do is pray for your husband because um, they're still the leaders of our homes. So, that's a lot of pressure. I'm glad that I am personally glad that TJ is the one that makes the ultimate. Now we discuss things, and I have a say, but I love that I'm not the one making the really tough decisions. We talk about it, and he's the one that makes the ultimate decision. We've talked about it. We might agree on it, but you know, I'm glad that he's the leader, and I don't have that pressure as much. I just you know. So that is the three types of men. Again, it was from the book Created to Be His Helpmeet by Debbie Pearl. Great book. I highly recommend this book. Um, there, she touches on so much. Like I said, I thought about doing a study on the whole book, but it's like 300 pages long, and I don't know if I'd be able to do it. So that's what the biggest lesson I learned from this, and has made like I said, I've learned a ton of things. She touches on all kinds of things from like um, being submissive. That particular chapter was called Wisdom to Understand Your Man. And like I said, it helps so much. And I hope it helped you through my summary. I know it's not the same as reading because, you know, but I just summarized it. Yeah, so have a great day.